Okay, what I have here is just a plastic bottle with some measurements. I picked this up in Hong Kong, and also some ball bearings. Now, I'm gonna open up this package and put a couple of bearings in here. Maybe 2 or 3. Let's go 3. So I have these bearings inside my bottle. Now, I just opened up this bottle of Mr Resin Primer Surfacer, and right now I'm using my stirring rod to mix up all the resin, or the primer. And you can tell that this is very, very thick. It's right out of the bottle. Now I have to thin this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to prep a bottle with this stuff so that I have a pre-mixed bottle that I'm going to use as to work with, so I don't have to constantly remix this every time I need to prime something. I'm going to pour the entire contents of the bottle in here. That should be good. So I have this thickness, and if I swirl it around, you can see that coat's fairly heavy and it's kind of thick. I'm going to clean up this bottle. I didn't pour all of this in, but pour most of this bottle. Set this aside and get some. Look, that's empty. So let's get some Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. I like to use this because I paint in a fairly arid atmosphere, or environment, so I need a little bit more time for my paints to dry or cure. I'm going to pour a decent amount in and mix this up. This mixture might be a little too thin. So I'm going to go in with more of this, the rest of the resin primer, and see if I can gain the rest of this here. Now, thinning is one of those things that it's going to take some experience. The more you thin, the better you get at it. I don't use a strict ratio because each bottle is not, identical to the next bottle. So the amount of times you open up the bottle, the amount of times it's going to evaporate some of the paint. Your bottle environment changes every time you open this. So your strict ratio of maybe 60 to 40 or 50-50 is not going to work every time. So I like to stick with a general rule of thumb of consistency. I want this to be the consistency of about, your vitamin D milk. So it should just coat the sides and kind of drop back down. You see that it's coating the sides and dropping down. That should be about good. Now, what I did with this is I put the ball bearings in here. So right now, for future purposes, I just have to shake this up, and the bearings will help mix anything that's settled on the bottom. One of those questions the model shop was asked when he was selling this product, or the bottles, to people. One of the guys came in and said, "What if you drop the ball bearings into your airbrush? When you're pouring this paint out, you're not going to drop the ball bearings in there. It's actually kind of ridiculous, maybe." So I'm going to pour some into my airbrush, and I'm going to do a quick check for consistency. Now, once I pour this into the airbrush, I can spray this out, And when you're spraying it out, you're listening to the paint come out. You're watching it come out. You can hear it kind of squeak a little bit. You hear that? That's a little too thick. So when you're spraying, also, if you notice that it's if it splatters or dots up when you're painting, like so, it's a little too thick. So a simple solution, I'm just gonna dump this back in here. Worry about this later. And add some more thinner to this. Close it back up. Mix it up again. Hopefully this is not shaking the camera too much as I do this. So now this is nice and mixed. I'm just going to pour this back into my airbrush. Make sure I mix with the previous amount, or previous leftovers are in there, and do another. Perhaps I should close this up first. And do another test. Now you can see that you can hear a difference when I'm spraying. There's not that kind of high-pitched squeal, and when I'm spraying closer, you can see that it's not splattering as it did earlier with the spray pattern. So this is still slightly thick, but this is okay. I could just spray this with a higher pressure and it'll fix that. If I spray with a lower pressure, it's not going to have enough pressure to push that thick mixture out. You can also adjust your thinning ratios according to your air pressure. So a little thicker paint, you use a little higher pressure. A little thinner paint, you might drop your pressure down. And you can make those adjustments that way.